Imagine waking in the middle of the night not due to noise, nightmares, or restless tossing and turning, but simply because it was time to rise. Why did people in the Middle Ages divide their nights into two separate sleeps with an hour or more of wakefulness in between? In this video, we will delve into how people spent those quiet, candlelit hours and what those practices reveal about their work, beliefs, and fears. Asterisk, the two-sleep system asterisk. In the pre-industrial world, the notion of sleeping continuously throughout the night was uncommon. For a significant portion of human history spanning ancient civilizations, the Middle Ages, and extending into the early modern period, people followed a sleep pattern known to historians as first sleep and second sleep. The first sleep typically began not long after sunset, often in the early evening during the prolonged nights of winter, lasting approximately 3 to 4 hours. Then, without the aid of alarm clocks or any sense of urgency, individuals would wake naturally in the middle of the night. This experience was not regarded as unusual. Historical records from court documents, diaries, and even medical texts refer to these two sleeps as if their meaning was universally understood. For instance, a 16th century French physician noted that the interval between these two sleeps was ideal for studying and reflecting. English literature also features characters who would rise after their first sleep, resuming their tasks. Even writings from ancient Rome suggest that this two-part sleep cycle was a common practice in antiquity. It is essential to recognize that this phenomenon was not limited or rare. Whether one was a farmer in rural England, a merchant in Florence, or a monk in a secluded monastery, the two-sleep system was a fundamental aspect of nocturnal life. While specific practices varied by culture and climate, the essential principle remained the same. Sleep was divided into two segments with a wakeful interlude in between. Today, waking up in the middle of the night might be misconstrued as insomnia, but for those in the Middle Ages, it was simply a natural part of life. In fact, many valued this interlude, a breathing space during the darkness of night when the world was still and life slowed to a whisper. Before the advent of electric lights or widespread street lamps, nighttime was characterized solely by the sun, moon, and any faint artificial light that could be produced. In a medieval village, once the sun set, true darkness enveloped the landscape. Homes might have a small fire or a few candles burning, but these lights were costly to keep lit. For most people, night meant navigating shadows and silence. This scarcity of artificial light influenced the human body in ways that modern science is beginning to understand. Without bright illumination to deceive the brain, melatonin, the hormone that governs sleep, surged earlier in the evening, causing individuals to feel sleepy soon after darkness fell, especially in winter when the long nights could last 14 hours or more. It stands to reason that dividing this prolonged stretch into two blocks of sleep was more manageable than attempting to endure one continuous period of rest. The seasonal cycle further reinforced this pattern. During the long winter months, first sleep might commence soon after supper, often well before 9 o'clock p.m. In contrast, summer nights were shorter, which meant the timing of the sleep pattern could shift, but the habit remained ingrained. Life in a darker, slower-paced world meant that time itself moved differently. The hours after sunset were invaluable for unwinding, enjoying evening meals, and securing the household for the night. Once rest began, the body would sleep until that natural wakefulness returned, a pause in the midst of night that felt as customary as breakfast in the morning. In an era without electric timekeeping or shift work, the human rhythm synced closely with nature. In the hushed depths of the medieval night, people embraced a sleeping pattern that felt less like a disruption and more like the natural order of things. The first sleep typically commenced soon after the last activities of the day faded away. In the Middle Ages, this often meant bedtime arrived shortly after sunset, particularly during the extended nights of winter. The evening meal, generally the most substantial of the day, had been consumed, household chores completed, and doors secured against the cold and darkness. Families might gather briefly by the fire to share conversations, prayers, or engage in quiet tasks such as mending clothes, but the fatigue resulting from a day filled with hard labor and the draw of early darkness quickly weighed upon their eyelids. The nature of beds varied significantly. A peasant might sleep on a straw mattress stuffed into a wooden frame, often sharing the space with family for warmth. In contrast, nobles enjoyed feather beds, thick blankets, and occasionally canopies to retain heat. Whether in a simple thatched cottage or an elaborate stone manor, the first sleep generally lasted 3 to 4 hours. This initial sleep was regarded as the deepest and most restorative phase of the night. Modern scientists recognize that this period corresponds to stages of slow-wave sleep, which allows the body to repair tissues, consolidate memories, and replenish energy. Upon waking from their first sleep, individuals did not experience grogginess. Rather, they awoke naturally, as if a switch had been flipped. This wakefulness was part of an expected rhythm. The household would stir softly in the darkness, with voices hushed as embers were coaxed back to life. What followed was a mysterious and liminal experience that defined medieval nights, the period of wakefulness between the two sleeps. The midnight hour *, when the first sleep concluded, the household entered a transitional space, not fully night, yet not quite morning, neither work nor rest. People awoke without urgency, as if guided by an internal clock attuned to the rhythms of the sun and seasons. Outside, the darkness remained unbroken, but inside, dim lights flickered, perhaps a candle's glow or the soft orange hue of a rekindled hearth. This was a time for quiet industry and personal ritual. Some individuals took the opportunity to pray during these sacred midnight hours, believing that God was particularly attentive during the stillness of the night. Religious texts and sermons encouraged worship in this silence, positing that the soul was more receptive to divine influence during these tranquil moments. Others attended to practical needs, replenishing the fire, checking on livestock, or attending to children requiring nourishment. Mothers especially utilized this precious time for nursing their infants. It was also a moment for introspection. Devoid of the distractions of daylight, thoughts often turned inward. People might reflect on their dreams, contemplate problems, or strategize for the day ahead. Occasionally, neighbors would pay visits during this hour. Though the roads were dark in tightly knit villages, a nearby candle could serve as an invitation for companionship. Moreover, this period offered privacy for intimacy among couples, away from the demands of daily life. Far from being wasted time, those hours in the middle of the night played a significant role in the fabric of existence, carrying their unique sense of purpose, something that our modern, artificially lit world has mostly forgotten. After an hour or more of peaceful wakefulness, people would return to their beds for the second sleep. This concluding stretch of rest carried them from the depths of night toward the first light of dawn. While the first sleep was characterized by deep restoration, the second sleep often took on a lighter quality, drifting between dreams and half-consciousness. Nevertheless, it was recognized as an essential part of recuperation, allowing both body and mind to ease into the approaching day. In rural communities, the timing of this second sleep frequently depended on the season. During winter, it could last well beyond sunrise, allowing farmers additional warmth before confronting the cold. In summer, the second sleep would conclude earlier, as the day's labor in the fields began at the first hint of light. The village rooster might even serve as a natural alarm, signaling the transition from repose to work. In urban settings, however, the rhythm of the night was more compressed. Bakers, brewers, and other tradespeople whose work started before dawn sometimes curtailed or skipped the second sleep altogether. For the majority, though, it marked a natural conclusion to the night cycle, devoid of guilt or a sense of oversleeping. This pattern that encompassed 2 phases of sleep had endured for centuries. For those who experienced it, the 2-sleep cycle was not merely a quaint tradition but the very essence of nocturnal life. Only with the rise of electric lighting and industrial working conditions did this ancient rhythm become perceived as unusual. Spiritual beliefs. The 2-sleep pattern was not just a practical solution to the challenges of darkness. It was also shaped by the medical and spiritual beliefs of the time. Medieval physicians, influenced by ancient Greek and Roman theories, believed that factors such as digestion, body temperature, and even mood could be affected by sleep patterns. Many advised individuals to lie down shortly after dinner to aid digestion and then awaken later to allow their bodies to settle before the second rest. In terms of spirituality, the act of waking at midnight bore deeper significance. Monastic life was structured around fixed times for prayer, and matins or vigils often took place during the stillness of the night. Ordinary people, although not bound by such discipline, absorbed the notion that midnight prayers were particularly powerful. Sermons and devotional literature promoted the idea that the dark hours were optimal for spiritual reflection and communion with the divine. For numerous medieval households, the quiet interlude between the first and second sleep was seldom a time of loneliness. In villages, those living within a short walk of one another often engaged in late-night visits, typically arriving for urgent matters such as a birth, a sick animal, or an unexpected danger. Sometimes these visits were simply for companionship. The warm glow of a neighbor's candle could act as a beacon in the darkness, offering reassurance and connection. Sharing beds themselves fostered both intimacy and connection, whether with family members or fellow workers. The midnight waking allowed for these bonds to be acknowledged and nurtured, or in some cases, to be kept in check. Therefore, the time between sleeps was far from an empty gap. It served a vital role in strengthening relationships, cultivating bonds in the stillness of the night. Asterisk trades asterisk. Not everyone utilized the time between sleeps for rest or intimate conversation. For some trades, the hours following the first awakening became the most productive of the day. Bakers, in particular, were well known for their nocturnal labor. Dough that had been prepared earlier needed kneading, shaping, and baking in time for the morning market. This reality meant that fires needed to be lit and ovens heated long before dawn, effectively transforming midnight into the genuine start of the workday. Millers and their apprentices frequently worked at night as well, seizing the cool, consistent night air to grind grain efficiently. During winter, when dampness and short days made for difficult working conditions, night shifts ensured that bread and flour were ready for the following day's consumption. In urban areas, watchmen also played a critical role during the midnight hours. They patrolled streets, guarded gates, and remained vigilant for signs of fire, one of the period's most feared threats. Although their rounds were quiet, they were essential, granting them a unique vantage point to witness the sleeping city illuminated by moonlight. In rural settings, vigilante wakefulness could also serve practical purposes. Farmers would check on livestock, ward off predators, or prepare tools for the next day's labor. Seasonal tasks, such as harvesting grain before the day's heat became unbearable, often commenced in these pre-dawn hours. For these workers, the middle of the night was not a moment of pause, but rather the engine that drove daily life. In the hours preceding sunrise, the medieval world buzzed with activity, the rhythm of life already shifting toward the new day. The two-sleep rhythm began to diminish during the 18th and 19th centuries, succumbing to far-reaching social and technological changes. The first disruptive force was the introduction of artificial light, not just candles or oil lamps, but gas streetlights and eventually electric bulbs. Cities, for the first time, could remain vibrant well past sunset, allowing people to abandon their adherence to natural darkness. Evenings became filled with theaters, coffee houses, and late-night social gatherings, causing bedtime to shift later and compressing the night into a single, uninterrupted block of rest. The Industrial Revolution exacerbated this alteration. Factory work required punctuality and standardized schedules, leaving little room for the luxury of waking in the middle of the night to linger by the fire. Employers required alert, focused workers for the full day, leading to a push for longer periods of uninterrupted sleep. Urban living contributed to this phenomenon as well. Crowded homes, thin walls, and escalating noise levels made wakefulness during the night less appealing. Additionally, as family units shrank and bed-sharing practices declined, the social aspect of the midnight hour faded away. Without the communal feeling that once characterized this waking period, the hour between sleeps lost much of its purpose and significance. By the early 20th century, the majority of the Western world had completely forgotten the two-sleep concept. The terms first sleep and second sleep vanished from common use, transforming what had been a universal rhythm for centuries into a historic curiosity, one relegated to old texts, legal documents, and fading memories of the elder generations. Asterisk conclusion asterisk today, sleep science is revisiting what was once deemed normal during the Middle Ages. Recent research has shown that when people are removed from artificial lighting and permitted to follow their natural rhythms, they often revert to a two-phase sleep pattern. In controlled studies, subjects tend to fall asleep shortly after darkness falls, awaken for about an hour in the middle of the night, and then return to sleep. This suggests that a segmented sleep cycle may be more in harmony with our biology than the modern ideal of a straight 8 hours of rest. What contemporary society labels insomnia, waking during the night and struggling to return to sleep, may, in fact, be the body's natural inclination resurfacing. For individuals accustomed to constant light and noise, the idea of waking in the dark and embracing that time for contemplation, prayer, or quiet activity can seem foreign. Yet for centuries, these quiet hours were treasured as deeply as the daylight, providing a space for mental stillness and reflection. The two-sleep pattern is a profound reminder of the rhythms of life that have shaped human beings long before the modern, age-lost tradition that now invites us to reconsider how we structure our nights and ultimately our lives.